Welcome back, criminology students and true crime buffs, to another explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating case study, one that hits on both true crime storytelling and investigative procedure. We're going to dive right into the tragic murder of 57-year-old truck driver Jack Reed. But we aren't just looking at the whodunit. We're looking at how narrative strategy takes a mountain of complex forensic data and transforms it into an urgent, highly accessible, and totally gripping timeline. Because, let's be real, whether you're presenting a case to a jury, writing up a report, or just studying how to communicate complex facts, the way you structure your information is literally just as important as the evidence itself. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with subverting the mundane, look at sensory cues of danger, follow the evidence trail, expose alibi contradictions, close the knowledge gap, and finally look at motive and simplification. All right, let's just jump right in. Section 1. Subverting the mundane and shattering personal safety. To really make an audience care about a case, you have to ground the tragedy in something relatable. Take our victim, Jack Reed. He was a former foster kid, working tirelessly toward a quiet retirement, completely unaware of the threat that was looming over him. The narrative actively juxtaposes this incredibly safe, everyday family setting against a lingering terror. On one hand, you have Jack enjoying a rare margarita at a public park in Derry, New Hampshire. He's proudly celebrating his 18-year-old daughter Megan's high school graduation. He even gives her new boyfriend, Walter, a friendly hug. It's literally the picture of normalcy for a guy who built a hard-earned life from the ground up. But then, the story introduces this hidden threat. It brings up a terrifying, unresolved incident from 2 years prior. An unknown prowler outside Jack's trailer who stared at him, actually called him by name, and then fled into the woods after Jack fired a warning shot. By combining these two elements, the narrative takes a completely mundane, safe environment and twists it into a space where danger feels pervasive and totally inevitable. Section 2. Sensory cues of danger. Hooking the primal instincts. Because before investigators even pull back the tarp at a scene, a strong narrative uses visceral foreshadowing to trigger immediate alarm. Think about it. Instead of starting with some sterile medical examiner's report talking about broken ribs, the scene is painted with incredibly specific, gruesome details. As Derry Police Detective Mike Hall approaches Jack's abandoned truck in a Massachusetts Target parking lot, the narrative specifically notes flies buzzing around, and a rotten, awful smell wafting out. Highlighting those sensory details hooks our primal instincts, right? It creates an immediate, visceral dread way before the crime scene is even fully revealed. Moving into Section 3, following the evidence trail, the procedural breakdown. So, as a criminology student, how do you explain a complex manhunt without losing your audience in a sea of forensic jargon? Well, you give them a tangible map, something like a simple logbook. This notebook was found tucked right in the passenger door pocket of Jack's truck, and it contained a really rushed entry on an otherwise totally blank page, Charlie and 145 North Road. This physical little notebook acts as a visual map for the audience. It completely bypasses all the jargon and provides a clear, incredibly easy to understand physical trail straight to the crime scene in Deerfield. And mapping this out chronologically is absolutely crucial for clarity. Check this out. On the morning of June 27th, Jack takes that call from Charlie, and he is murdered later that afternoon. 2 days later, his daughter Megan reports him missing. Now fast forward to July 4th. Megan and her boyfriend Walter are coincidentally caught on CCTV at that very same target in Massachusetts. And finally, July 5th, Detective Hool officially discovers the truck and the body. Seeing this timeline laid out allows the audience to instantly spot overlaps and anomalies. It sets the stage perfectly for the interrogation room. Section 4. Exposing alibi contradictions. The impartial camera. Let's look at exactly how immutable digital evidence can absolutely shatter rehearsed human lies. So when they're questioned separately, Megan and Walter tell the exact same rehearsed story. They claim they went to Jack's trailer to pick up an air conditioner on the night of Monday, June 27th, and that they saw him alive. But the impartial camera proves otherwise. Target CCTV shows Jack's dump truck arriving at 5:30 p.m. that exact same day, followed closely by the suspect's white minivan. The perpetrators are literally seen securing the tarp over Jack's body. The knowledge gap here, between what the suspects so confidently claim and what the camera definitively recorded, makes the contradiction glaringly obvious. Their alibi is physically impossible. Which brings us to Section 5, closing the knowledge gap, simplifying technology. How do you explain untraceable phone records without completely bogging the audience down in telecom data? You do it by grounding the technology in physical, real-world actions. Remember that mysterious call from Charlie on the day Jack died? Instead of talking about data pings and cellular triangulation, which, let's be honest, can get pretty dry, the producer neatly closes the knowledge gap by explaining prepaid burner phones through 3 simple steps. 1. A customer walks into a gas station and buys the phone in cash. 2. When asked for a name during activation, they hesitate and just provide a fake one. 3. They load minutes without ever signing a long-term contract. By explaining the tech through relatable human actions, the audience instantly gets the concept of an anonymous burner phone. It's brilliant. Section 6. Motive and simplification, reducing conspiracy to emotion. Real-world crimes are messy. So how is a sprawling, multi-state conspiracy simplified so an audience can actually digest it? Well, the investigation ultimately clears Megan and Walter, and it leads away from the fake Charlie to a massive, sprawling plot orchestrated by a self-made Las Vegas millionaire named John Brooks. Holding this completely baseless grudge over an old moving job, Brooks used a farm owned by an associate, Michael Connors, as a trap. He actually sent his own son and 3 hired accomplices to wait inside a spotless barn just to ambush Jack with a hammer. It's a lot of moving parts. But instead of getting bogged down in the intricate logistics of the hiring process or the cross-state coordination, the narrative boils the whole shebang down to one universally understood emotion: pure, unadulterated revenge. 5. That is the total number of men eventually convicted in this massive retaliation plot, including John Brooks, his son, and the 3 accomplices. And, they were all successfully brought to justice because investigators steadily followed that simple physical evidence trail, from a scribbled logbook to timestamped CCTV footage, all the way to burner phone records. So what we've really learned from the Jack Reed case is that presenting evidence is an absolute art form. By subverting the mundane to establish those emotional stakes, relying on sensory cues to build primal dread, and simplifying complex data to close the knowledge gap, we aren't just reporting a crime, we're building an urgent, understandable narrative arc. Basically, if you master the narrative, you master the investigation. I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Evidence really only matters if the jury, the judge, or the public can actually understand it. The truth doesn't just speak for itself, it needs a translator. So when you're presenting your next case, how will you structure your explanation to bridge that knowledge gap and make your forensic evidence absolutely impossible to ignore? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep digging, and keep structuring your knowledge. I'll catch you next time.